Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our second annual College Admissions webinar series. My name is Chi Loek, Executive Director of UA3. Many people know us as UA3 Community First in combating food insecurity, youth empowerment, educational workshops, and wellness programs across New York City. We collaborate with over 100 community-based organizations, private and public entities in bridging cultural understanding and building solidarity among marginalized communities. Today, with our partners, we're able to bring you College Admission webinar. Much appreciation to all our co-sponsors, of which we will take time to acknowledge them during intermission. We have put together an extensive college admission information package to share with you, and we'd like to get it started. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our co-organizer, Lulu Zhou of A+ Academy.
Thank you, Chi. Welcome, everyone. My name is Lulu, and on behalf of A+ Academy, I welcome you to join our college admissions webinar. A+ Academy is an educational institution, and every year we host admissions webinars for middle school, high school, and college to support our community in navigating through these processes. So this is our second time co-hosting this webinar with Ms. Paula McKinnon, and we received very positive feedback from our parents and students last year, saying that it was really wonderful information after this evening.
So we're very happy to have Paula McKinnon, who has extensive wealth of information to share with us. And I'll let Paula McKinnon to introduce herself and get the workshop started. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to be working with you this evening and presenting to you. I was a guidance counselor for 25 years. For the last 13 years, I worked at Brooklyn Tech High School. I still work there part-time, planning all their events, all the college representative visits, as well as the college fair. So tonight, we are going to review the application process for seniors. And if there are any other younger members in the house, it's an informative evening of what you will be going through someday. But right now we're going to concentrate on the seniors in the house. So welcome and thank you. So sorry, I'm trying to get to my next screen. So tonight's agenda, and then we'll have this translated for you. We're going to talk about building your college list, about the CUNY application, which includes the Macaulay Honors Program and any special programs, the SUNY application. We have some interesting information about fee waivers so that you don't have to pay for some of your applications. We'll talk about opportunity programs in New York State, private schools, and out-of-state schools, which is, we've got some good information about when you need to apply, deadlines, how you're applying with the common application, types of admission. We're going to talk about you thinking about your list and looking at data to see if schools are appropriate for you. Letters of recommendation, test scores. Do you want to submit them or do you not want to submit them? Demonstrated interest, showing your interest in the college or university that you're interested in, and the essay and how important it is. So the next thing that we're going to be looking at is building your list. So students should aim to create a list that is right for you, not for anyone else. And what you need to do now is to speak to your parents about how much they're willing to pay for college. So you want to find the right school for you financially, academically, and socially. So if you are thinking about a certain school that requires a very high average, and maybe your average is not quite there, you need to think about that school. Would this be the right school for me? So there are many factors that come into building your list. So to ensure that you have schools on your list that are in your financial category, I always suggest that students have CUNYs, which are the city schools, SUNYs, which are the public schools in New York State. You can apply to private schools, and especially you can get scholarships to private schools, and you may want to have some out-of-state public colleges. So this way, in your list, you have a variety of price points, so that the cost goes from $7,000 for a CUNY up to, the privates are very expensive now, around 80,000, 70, 80,000. But if you can get a scholarship and pay very little, you may pay less for a private than you do for Binghamton. It all depends if you can get money for your school. So if you are a student that your parents are middle class or higher than that, you are going to be looking for merit scholarship. If your parents have lower incomes, you want to be looking at schools that are going to meet your need, and so that you can get almost all of it paid so that you don't have to burden your family. And you might fall into both of those categories. You might be able to present your application that you have need, and you also may be able to get a merit scholarship. So after we get the translation, we're going to start to look at all of those application types. Okay, so next we're going to talk about CUNY. That's the City University of New York. And there are many different CUNYs. Usually there are 4-year schools and there are 2-year schools. In Manhattan, you have John Jay, Baruch, City College, and you also have Hunter. In Staten Island, the College of Staten Island. In Queens, you have Queens College and York College. Brooklyn has Brooklyn College, and the Bronx has Lehman College. And then there are several 2-year colleges in each of the boroughs also. So with the CUNY, you can apply for general admission, or you can apply to the Macaulay Honors Program. If you are eligible for free or reduced lunch, you can apply for free using a fee waiver, and you can apply up to 6 schools with that fee waiver. If you are not applying with the fee waiver, it costs $65. CUNY has its own application, and you will use either the general application, or if you're applying to Macaulay, you will apply specifically with the Macaulay application, which, by the way, is due on November 16th. The biggest thing is that you must put your correct OSIS number. And you're probably wondering, why is that important? Because for those of you who are Department of Education students, the New York City Department of Education and CUNY have an agreement that they will pull your transcript via your OSIS number. So I want to just emphasize that you should be very careful to put your correct OSIS number. You don't want them getting anyone else's transcript. So the next thing that we're going to look at is some more information about the CUNY program. And Okay, we're going to actually now talk about the Macaulay program. This is a very prestigious honors program that you can apply to if you feel that you are eligible, and they look for a fairly high average. City College for certain programs may be more competitive than John Jay. It depends on which school you're looking at. But each four-year CUNY has a Macaulay honors program, and you'll have access to the same majors. Everything is the same, but you will be taking honors level courses in your major. You are also entitled to a full tuition for all 4 years. This is a merit-based scholarship if you become a Macaulay Honors student. They also receive laptops. Some of them have, some of the schools offer special funding that you can be used for study abroad and other opportunities. And some of them have special perks like housing. So if you get accepted to Hunter College, you actually will get your first year of housing for free. So, as a reminder, this year you have to apply by November 16th at 6 p.m. However, I highly suggest that you do not wait until November 16th to submit that day, because many times the system gets clogged. So I am urging you to apply several days before November 16th. And I gave you the website so that you can see what is required of you in order to apply to the Macaulay Honors Program. It's really a terrific program. So I am going to look right now. It looks like that perhaps I should look at some of the questions that have come up. And maybe we can take a few of them before we go to the next slide. But that website for Macaulay is at the bottom of the screen, macaulay.cuny.edu. And also just be aware of the fact that some of the Macaulays will require an interview. And they don't quite tell you exactly what they're looking for in terms of averages, but I would say, you know, the more competitive ones like Hunter, Baruch, City, you know, where they are looking for, you know, 95 and above, and some of the other ones are a little bit lower. I would say if you're, you know, a 92 or above, definitely look into applying to Macaulay. So I'm going to take some of the questions. The first one is, for low-income parent, does student qualify for full financial aid throughout the 4 years of college? Yes, you must fill out your financial paperwork every year. So they see to, you know, if you get a parent gets a better job and starts to make more money, you may get less aid. Some schools are very tricky, which is why you want to look at schools, if you are low income, that meet most of your aid, if not all of your need. Some schools might say, oh, say they cost $40,000. We're going to give you a $10,000 merit scholarship, and we're going to give you $20,000. And that includes the federal and state aid. And then you look, you still have $10,000 left. So, you don't want to take out loans for that. If you have need, this will put you in the hole for many years. So, for them, you need to watch out for the private schools, how much it's called a gap, how much they are leaving a gap saying that you are responsible for, even if you are low income. The next question says, my son is in private high school, so how can they get the transcript? In that case, your school's guidance counselor, or if you have a college office, usually the guidance counselor will upload the transcript onto the CUNY or Macaulay, portal. So that will be done from the school. There's a way that the school can do that. And someone asked, what are the requirements? And as we said, it would be a pretty high average. They're going to look at your, the test scores are optional. You can decide to submit or not to submit. And they are going to look at your essays. They have specific essays, and they will look at your letters of recommendation. Then, if you are chosen at a school where they do interviews, they will also consider the interviews as part of the package of how they consider you. But if you do get asked for an interview at one of the schools that requires it, that's usually a very nice sign. Okay. So I have exciting news for all of you. If you are eligible for a fee waiver, of course, you can always get it. But if you're not eligible for a fee waiver, CUNY has waived all the fees. You can apply for free between October 1st and October 31st of 2023. So sometimes people are in that category. They're certainly not wealthy, but they don't quite make the cut to get a fee waiver. So this is a great way that you can get a fee waiver. So I wanted to let you know about that. And I don't know why I have this other date, but I was told between October 1st and the 31st. Oh, if you are not in the city, apparently, you also can get a fee waiver for those dates. So take advantage. So when you're looking to see if you're eligible for a CUNY in terms of your grades, I gave you some websites, and afterwards you will actually get this PowerPoint. So you'll have all this information. But on the website, they give you an idea of what their GPAs are. So at Baruch for last year, the median was 93%. 50% of all the students who got admitted to Baruch had a 93. 25% got below, 25% got above. So that's why you can see when I said about Macaulay, for someplace like Baruch, they would be looking more for, I would think, a 95 and above, because their regular is around a 93. There are other programs that I'm going to discuss in the next few minutes that you can enter a CUNY if your income is lower and your GPA is lower. And that is called the SEEK program at the four-year schools. And it's called college discovery at the two-year schools. So you can see if you're a lower income and your GPA is around an 84, 85, you could enter Baruch with those qualifications. And what will happen is you will get special tutoring, and you will get special tutoring, and you will get a special advisor in order for you to build yourself up in order to graduate in 4 years. But it's an excellent program to get into certain schools. Okay, so I now will take some more questions. Can you apply to the same CUNY with both Macaulay and general admission? No. What happens is you will apply to 6 schools, and you will indicate which schools you are interested in Macaulay. You will first hear whether you got into that school as a regular admit student. And then you will hear after if you have been admitted to that school as a Macaulay student. Someone asked, what is the average for Hunter College? I would say, once again, it's around Baruch's GPA. Maybe it's a 92 or not. I don't have the full the full profile on my screen, but again, Hunter is extremely competitive. And it also depends what programs you apply to. So for instance, you know, if you're applying for engineering at City College, that is going to be maybe more competitive than their film studies major. So just keep that in mind also. Yes, someone asked if you will receive the slideshow and the recording, and I believe that will be sent to you from the sponsors at the end of the, they have my PowerPoint, and I am absolutely fine with them sharing it with you. For some reason, I'm so sorry. I went into exploring the academic programs. So sorry about that. Well, since we're here, maybe we can, this is what that page looks like that I had up before. And I am going to see if I can get back into my PowerPoint. And if not, I will share it with you again. I'm so sorry about that. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I hit something. Now, the SUNY system is State University of New York. They also have an admissions profile. And you are going to either apply to them on the Common App. I always suggest to do it on the Common App. It's easier, but there also is a SUNY portal. So if you have Naviance, and I'm only speaking to the students here who have Naviance at their school, you need to list all your colleges. Naviance is a system that has been bought by many of the New York City schools, that the counselors can send your transcripts and the teachers can send your letters of recommendation. Also, if you're eligible for free or reduced lunch, you can apply up to 7 SUNY campuses using a fee waiver. Otherwise, it costs $50 per application. Again, I'm showing you, I'm giving you the website to discover this. You can look at the majors, and you can also look at the admission summary. They also are still test optional, and they have a very nice profile also. For instance, Binghamton has 14,000 students. This would be the mid-range of the scores they accepted, 1,300 to 1,450. And they're looking for a high school GPA of 93 to 98. So they are very, very competitive, followed by the Stony Brook University. So you would bear this in mind when applying to them. Now, if you are applying to a business major at Stony Brook, nursing, pre-med sort of science major, engineering, you should really think about taking advantage of their early action program, because Binghamton is so competitive. Our representative tells our students to try to apply early action by November 15th. I will explain what early action is later, but I just want you to keep that in your mind, that this is something that you probably should do if you're applying to a very competitive program. I'm going to look at some of the question and answers, some of the questions. What grades are most important for colleges to look at, or is it everything? Most colleges find that the junior year is of utmost importance. They like to see that your grades have progressed every year. And if they haven't, perhaps this is something your guidance counselor can explain in their letter of recommendation for you. Sometimes something happens in the family or with the student. For many students, COVID was a very difficult time. And your class is the first class that actually started high school during COVID. And they will understand that, but it's something that you need to explain to them. Suppose, you know, your family, you were living somewhere, there was a fire. It was very difficult for you to study, or there was an illness in the family and your grades went down. They're going to say, they're going to look and think, what happened? Make sure that this is explained by either you or your guidance counselor. You need to let them know. And usually you can do that in the Common App. They will ask you, has there been any extenuating circumstances? But they like to see that grades go up. They look especially at the junior year. And for you seniors, please do not engage in senioritis. I think you know what that is. You know, it's your senior year. You've gotten tired. There's all these college applications. You start maybe not studying or doing as much work as you used to. You need to keep your grades up. Very, very important. And some schools, very few, but I know Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, didn't used to look at the freshman year. So something to think about. So for low-income families, what can they apply to cover the tuition? You're going to be having another seminar in that. You used to apply for the FAFSA for federal aid. It's now called the SAA, Student Aid Report. It's not coming out, I believe, until December. And there's something called TAP, Tuition Assistance Program. You can get money from New York State. And then there's some other programs for New York State residents that you will also get money. And remember, I spoke to you before about that program at CUNY called SEEK. They have one at SUNY called EOP. and they have one at private schools called HEOP. And if you are eligible for one of those, you get most of your tuition covered. The next question is is the GPA only using grade 11 scores or grades? No, your GPA covers all of your time in high school. So right now, the seniors, their GPA is freshman, sophomore, and junior year. Right now, that's your GPA. In February, after you get your first term grade, your GPA is freshman, sophomore, junior year, and 1/2 of your senior year. Do they offer Pell Grant anymore? As far as I know, yes. The application has changed, but the Pell Grant is still around. Is the GPA weighted with honors and AP classes? Yes. I don't know about the private schools, but in New York City, your AP classes and your honors classes are weighted at 1.1%. Your grade, say you got, I'm going to make up a grade, you got an 80 in a class, in an AP class. That it will show as 80 on your transcript, but it goes into your GPA at 1.1%, which would be 88. It is calculated into your GPA as an 88. Okay, I think those are all the questions for now. And I just learned that not only is this webinar being recorded, they will also post a video on YouTube within a few days. Okay, hopefully I won't go into anything else. And I did it again. I'm so sorry. Oh, here we go. Here's the whole admissions summary. And what's great about this is it for SUNY, it will tell you what schools have early decision or early action. And Stony Brook this year, for the first time ever, started an early action program. Now, this is pretty unbelievable, but they made their early action program due on October 15th, and no one could get it in on time. So I just want to let you know that SUNY Stony Brook has informed us they will take applications up until, I believe, October 31st. But if you're very interested in Stony Brook and you want to get a head start, I highly suggest applying early if you're ready. And when you apply, it will say, do you want to apply early action? And the application may not let you hit that box, but anyone who does apply before October 31st will be eligible for early action. And also on this, you can see which schools have EOP. So Binghamton has EOP, and they're looking for a 93 to a 98 regularly, mid-range. But with HEOP, they don't really quite tell you exactly what it is, but it's definitely will be on the lower end, maybe high 80s, 88, 89, 90 for the HEOP program. Okay, and so let's go to our next slide. Oh, one quick thing. If you were applying to FIT, which is the Fashion Institute of Technology, you cannot apply to that school on the SUNY portal. you can only, on the Common App, you can only apply on the SUNY portal if you were applying to the Fashion Institute of Technology. And your materials will either be sent via Naviance, or if you're in a private school, your guidance counselor will send them. So before, we talked about the SEEK program for CUNY and the EOP for SUNY. This is the income requirements. So if you have lower income, which is listed here, and your grades are lower than they normally accept, you can possibly get accepted at these schools through these programs. They also have it for private schools. And one of the schools, believe it or not, that has it is Cornell, and Columbia has it. But those requirements will be fairly high because Cornell and Columbia are looking for incredibly high GPAs. But, if you have, a lower number than what they usually accept, you may, and your income is lower and you do everything they tell you, you may be eligible to enter those schools through the HEOP program. So the theory behind this is that these schools wanted to help students who, were economically disadvantaged, who show promise to succeed in college. Maybe if your income is lower, you cannot afford to pay for, tutors that charge $200 an hour, or, these SAT prep classes that cost $5,000. So they're saying, we want to give you a chance to come to our school, and we will help you along the way with special tutoring and special advising, that we are bringing you to an equal level with perhaps people that have had more advantages. So they're really great programs. And if you're interested in those, you should really speak to your guidance counselor or college advisor at your school to say that you're interested. And I will take a couple more questions. Oh, actually, I answered all of them so far. Okay. Oh, and so, yes, you can get for the SUNY, you can also get through October 29th, 5 free applications. So those cost $50 each. So that's saving you $250. Now, if you are eligible for fee waivers, you're eligible for up to 7, correct? So you can either wait and do all 7 at once, or you can do 5 now and 2 later with your fee waiver. Okay, so I just wanted to give you an idea of like what some private and out-of-state public colleges are. So someplace like Syracuse, that's a private New York State college. But Wesleyan University is a private out-of-state college. So for those of you who are applying for financial aid, you could get TAP at Syracuse, which is tuition assistance program, if you go to a college in New York State, but you will not get TAP at Wesleyan. Now, Rutgers University is the public university in New Jersey. That's considered an out-of-state public college. Now, of course, the out-of-state colleges give their money first to their in-state students. So Stony Brook, when they're giving out money, they're going to give out money to New York State students first. Rutgers is going to give money to New Jersey students first. However, they always have money for out-of-state students if you are an excellent student. So look, and some of them have in-state tuition for out-of-state students. So Ohio State University, their team is called the Buckeyes. I guess their football team. If you apply to Ohio State by November 1st, and you're a great student, you will be eligible for the Buckeye Scholarship, which is for you will get in-state tuition for an out-of-state student. So, look, if you're interested in any out-of-state schools, look at their websites, see what they offer in terms of financial aid for out-of-state students, and it might be something you're interested in. And then I gave you McGill University. Now that's an international university, and a lot of the international universities will accept the FAFSA. Again, of course, you cannot get TAP. You cannot get TAP at Wesleyan, you cannot get it at Rutgers, and you cannot get it at McGill. Only in-state universities. Okay. So every private and out-of-state school, every college by law has to have something called the net price calculator. And you will find that on their financial aid page. By law, they have to have it. You can plug in your money that you make and any other kinds of money that if you have money in the bank, getting interest, etc. And they will come up with a number that they think you will have to pay at their school. So this is something you may want to think to do to get an idea. And this is the time to be doing this because, I'll describe later, you can have two schools and they're basically giving you around the same things in terms of the academics, but one may give more money. So you want to be aware and do your research of what schools will give you more money. So some schools are only going to give need-based aid. So someplace like, I believe it's still this way, Tufts University, if you have need, they're going to give you a lot of money. But if your parents are more middle class, they don't offer any merit aid. So if you don't have that much need, they're going to try to stick you with the whole price. So, look on that financial aid page. So I gave you a few websites that offer complete financial aid, and more schools are going that way, that if you have need, they're going to try to meet your need. And as I said before, sometimes you can get accepted at a private school and it's going to cost less than if you go to a state school. For those of you who have Naviance, they have some tools that you can also find meeting 100% need. But I also gave you a resource from Brooklyn Tech for the colleges that provide merit aid. There's a lot of schools that provide aid, that they have merit scholarships for certain criteria. Sometimes it's not just your GPA. Some of the schools, if you're going to be a music major, they have scholarships for music majors, etc. If you're an outstanding athlete, you may be able to get money. Okay. Is a specialized high school weighted differently than a regular high school? No, they all are weighted. The AP classes and the honors classes and any accelerated classes are weighted at 1.1. However, just so you understand the back side of the college process, when you apply to college, besides the letters of recommendation going and your grades going, etc., a school profile is usually sent to the colleges. Each high school should have a school profile, which explains all the courses, what is offered, because sometimes, a lot of courses are offered, but you might not be able to take all of them. But it's general information that the college understands what kind of high school you go to. Wesleyan University is a great college. It is considered a baby Ivy. We have the Ivy League schools, which I think we all know: Harvard, Brown, Yale, Cornell, UPenn, Columbia, and Princeton. Am I missing anything? And Dartmouth. The baby Ivies would be, and they have them in different sections of the United States, would be Wesleyan, Amherst, Williams, maybe Swarthmore in the Northeast, and in the Midwest, Grinnell, I think Kenyon and Oberlin, Carleton out there. And in the West Coast, there's Pomona and Harvey Mudd, and Claremont McKenna. So Wesleyan is an excellent school. I can't really talk to their math major. I know that Williams has a fabulous math major, but I'm sure Wesleyan does too. It's a fabulous school. Okay, so moving on, we'll talk about the Common App. And most students apply through the Common App, except for CUNY. They have their own application. SUNY, they have their own. For SUNY, you can either do the Common App or the SUNY application. And this is where you apply for everything. The supplemental essays show up. It's just much easier. And right now, I had 2 schools visiting tech last week. I know that I believe Colby was one of them. A lot of schools, if you're applying on the Common App, they're absolutely free. I suggest using the Common App. It's just so much easier, so much easier. Okay. And you can request a fee waiver also from the Common application. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's talk about the fee waivers. So in order to get a fee waiver, you need to fill out a lunch form. And that is where you put your income down. And then you can then request the fee waivers. I'm so sorry, I actually had Brooklyn Tech High School in there, but usually you request it from your guidance counselor, or they send it to you. They send you a code. And by the way, your Common App can hold a maximum of 20 colleges. So I do not suggest this, but I've had students before that actually had more than 20 schools, which I do not approve of, but it was a done deal. And they did many on the Common App, and then they used the CUNY and SUNY application. 20 colleges, this is getting to be too much, because then at the end, if you get acceptances to a lot of them, you don't know where to go, because it's too many. I suggest that list get narrowed down. Now, there is also another fee waiver. If you run out of fee waivers from your school, you can request, excuse me, a, you can request a NACAC fee waiver. And if you took the SAT or the ACT with a fee waiver, you are eligible for those. So this is a chart that shows you how important it is to do that lunch form, because your school is going to cross-check if you're eligible. So the CUNY, you usually get a code. And then the Common App schools, you request it on Common App. And your school, will approve it either on the Common App or Naviance. And then the NACAC fee waiver, you actually will receive the actual fee waiver after you've been approved. If you're applying to SUNY FIT, you need to get the SUNY fee waiver from your school. And as I told you before, the schools are now allowing you free applications for a certain amount of time. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but I just wanted you to see, in case you have not opened up your Common App, what it looks like. If you put down a school, it gives you all the information about the school, the deadlines, the application fees, how to get a fee waiver, if you have to do extra essays, etc. So this will just be, it's a little overview, but I hope by now you have opened up your Common App. The biggest thing, the most important thing you need to do is to complete the FERPR, which is it's the release form. What it's saying is that you are waiving your rights to see your recommendations. Because if you see your recommendations, you might say to the teacher or the guidance counselor, oh, you might criticize what they wrote or say, I'd like you to add this, I'd like you to do this. Then it's not the letter from them, it's a letter from you. So you must waive this, and you will not be able to apply on the Common App unless you do this FERPR release. And I think this is a time I'll take a couple more questions. What school is good for nursing, physician assistant, paramedic, and medical field? Your son has a 95 average. Well, I would look at the Stony Brook, Binghamton, but for Binghamton and Stony Brook, I might apply early because nursing is a very competitive field. Your son has a very good average. The later we're going to talk, I would talk about some of the programs at I know that there's some, well, he wants to do nursing. City College has the Sophie Davis. It's a medical school program, part of CUNY. But I know that University of Pennsylvania, which is an Ivy League school, has a fabulous nursing program. And there's many good nursing programs. I would also apply maybe to other schools that have good nursing programs that you might get more money from. NYU has a great nursing program, but NYU is incredibly expensive, and sometimes they don't want to give so much money. Hunter has a very excellent nursing program also. Those are just some off the top of my head. So your son is in private school, so he doesn't fill out a lunch form. How can we get the fee waiver? I would ask the guidance counselor or college advisor what they need from you to get the fee waiver. They may need to see the first page of your tax form from 2022. I'm thinking that's what they may ask for. Can all of the schools see what you put on the Common App, or is it private? It is private, but one thing that you need to know is if you put your test scores on the Common App, all schools can see them. So suppose you're applying to Columbia University, and you're also applying to a less competitive SUNY because, you know, you want to have a well-rounded list, very hard schools and, you know, reach schools and maybe more safety schools. If your scores are, say, 1350, they might be great for SUNY Oswego, but at Columbia, they wouldn't be that, you wouldn't be that eligible. So if you put them on the Common App and you are applying to Columbia and you're applying to SUNY Oswego, everyone can see your scores. So I highly suggest you don't put your scores on and you send them separately to the colleges. But that's about it. 95, does that GB? Yes, someone asked if a student has 100 GPA in a school like New Utrecht and another student has a 95 GPA in a school like Brooklyn Tech, does different GPA across different schools mean anything? Yes, they know that a school like Brooklyn Tech or some of the other specialized high schools are very, very, they have the students may be taking more AP classes. Some of the classes may be more rigorous. So they understand at specialized high schools that GPAs are they mean different things at different schools. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, and the colleges do know that. That being said, 100 at New Utrecht is a very, very bright, excellent student, and they know that also. So, okay. So in a few minutes, we'll take a little break, but I'll just, I believe it's in my PowerPoint when we'll take the break. But the different types of admission, I have this nice screenshot for you from the National Association of College Admissions Counseling. Early action, you apply early, you hear early, it is non-binding, you don't have to go. And early decision is binding, meaning that you're committing to that institution if admitted. Someone at Brooklyn Tech used to always say, this is like if you fell in love with a girl or a boy in high school and you ended up getting married. You knew this is the person I want to marry. I find that hard, that you love a school that much because there's so many out there that offer terrific things. And to me, it's a little bit scary. I did not allow my own son to apply early decision because I didn't want to have that commitment of the finances. So anyway, you meet, I advise that if you're applying anywhere early, you do the net calculator and you actually meet with a financial aid counselor from that institution to ask them to go over your paperwork. Could you give me a ballpark figure what I might have to pay? Is it around what this net calculator says? Because you don't want to get yourself into trouble. So restrictive early action means you can apply early action to that institution. Yale does this, but you may be restricted from applying anywhere else. So that means that they usually let you apply to state or city institutions early, or if you're applying for a scholarship. So if you apply to Yale early, they will let you apply to Macaulay, that's the city. They will allow you to apply early action to Binghamton or Stony Brook. And if you were applying to Ohio State and you had to apply early in order to be eligible for that scholarship, they would allow you to do that. But they won't let you apply, like, say, early action to Williams or to a different school, a different private school. So if you use Naviance, I know a lot of people here may not. This is what it looks like when you're using the Naviance platform. So this will tell you it's a Common App school. This tells you it's a school that's not Common App. Some schools don't take Common App. And this is saying we don't take anything electronically. You have to send the transcript to us. And for those of you in private schools that are not using Naviance, most likely all your schools would be in this category. The guidance counselor will need to send the transcript. But if your school has Naviance, it's so easy. You just press a button, the guidance counselor, and the transcript goes electronically. So it's quite easy. I see we have a few more questions. When should you ask your teachers for letters of recommendation? What teachers would be best to ask? If you were seniors, on Monday, you should go in and ask for the letters. If you are juniors watching this program, next spring, you should start asking for the teachers' letters of recommendation. They usually like to see one from the social sciences, English, some sort of history class, if you're taking an elective like psychology, etc., or they like a math or science one. And sometimes you may not be as strong in one of those, and you ask your teacher honestly, would you be able to give me a good letter of, a favorable letter of recommendation? My particular case with my own son, he was not that terrific in math, but the teacher said, I'd love to give you a recommendation because you came to tutoring 3 times a week. You worked really hard. You raised your average. I mean, my son would never be an engineer, but the teacher was willing to give him a good letter of recommendation, talking about how hard he worked in the class. For submitting SAT scores, should I send both the old and the new improved score to show improvement, or should I just send the better score? I believe that when you send your scores, they send all of them, but the colleges, some of them want to see all of them. Like Georgetown wants to see all of your scores. And I believe Yale wants to see all of your scores, see what your college's, the university's policy is. But then what happens is at most colleges, they get sent and they choose. You may have a better English score the first time and a better math score the second time. They actually take the better of each one. Now, if you don't want them to see scores at all, you have to choose something when you're sending the scores. And I believe it cost a little bit of extra money, called score choice. So if you really bombed them and you don't want them to see any of them at all, you're going to just choose the ones you want to send. How many letters of recommendation do we need? It depends on the school. Most want 2. Some will take more than 2. Binghamton, for instance, and some other schools like Georgia Tech, and there's a few others, they only want 1. So if you're applying to Binghamton and you want to be go into medicine, nursing medicine, I would highly suggest you send a science teacher, or an engineering, possibly a science or a math teacher. You know, that's not necessarily when you might want to send the other teacher, and you want to specifically make sure that the right teacher's letter gets sent to that school that only requires 1. And just so you know, some of you, and I may have something about this later, may want to have an outside letter of recommendation. So, for instance, if you're volunteered at some place for 3 years at a museum, I'm going to make this up, and the museum director says, oh, I would love to write you a letter of recommendation, you will add that to your Common App. And for I have some questions in the chat too, it looks like. Oh, I didn't realize this. What's this? Oh, how can I help? Okay. Should I send both? Oh, I think some of these I have answered the question. I mean, I would not put my score on the Common App if I'm applying to Ivy League schools. And I know that Columbia is taking high 1400s, 1500, and I have a 1350. I would go test optional for that school. After applying for EA and REA, can I choose a school? When is the deadline for registration this year? Usually you must tell the school by May 1st. If any schools pressure you that you applied early action, to answer them beforehand or pick a dorm beforehand or this or that, they cannot do that. You speak to your counselor and say, I've had that happen, that schools start trying to pressure kids to pick dorms, et cetera, et cetera. They cannot do that. It's against their regulations. What happens if I didn't take the PSAT? Could that person let me know what year they are in high school? Are they a sophomore, a junior, a senior? I mean, it's not going to make any difference if you didn't take the PSAT, except if you get a wonderful SAT score, you could be eligible for something called the National Merit Scholarship. And I believe you had to have taken the PSAT for that. Do Ivy League schools want supplemental essays? Yes, they all have supplemental questions. And Yale University, if any of you are interested in Yale, if you look under their admissions website, they actually used to have a YouTube that I have watched that they give you tips on how to answer their supplemental essays. Someone wrote, what about letters from elected officials? Absolutely. If an elected official can give you a letter of recommendation, that's fabulous. Yes, PSAT is taken in sophomore year. So if you didn't take it's taken in sophomore year and also again in your junior year. So if you didn't take it in your sophomore year, you can always take it again in your junior year. by the way, if any of you are interested in applying to a military academy at Brooklyn Tech, I have had students that applied to the Air Force Academy, West Point Air Force, West Point is for Army, and the Naval Academy. That is a totally free tuition. I have a boy now, a young man. He is went to the U.S. Naval Academy, and he is flying fighter jets. And his goal in life is to then become a commercial pilot at some point. And if you apply to one of those academies, you have to have a letter from your elected official. If interested in nursing and medical field, is ACT highly recommended? No, you can do practice tests online by Googling what test is right for me, and you can see the differences between the SAT and the ACT, and you can actually take practice test to see which one you will do better on. They ask different sorts of questions, and the ACT, I believe, moves a lot faster than the SAT, and has a it has a science section. It's not about science. It's really more about your critical thinking skills. But I would look, and either one of them, either test is fine. If we do ask for a letter of recommendation from someone outside of school, how would they submit it? Would there be a section on the Common App? Absolutely. There is a section on the Common App. You have to get their email, and from the Common App, it will send them an email. They upload the letter, and it goes onto the Common App. You cannot see it, but it goes back. What college majors are best for a student who likes math? Oh, goodness, that's very hard. I mean, if you're interested in statistics, you could become an accountant, a statistician. You could be a pure math major, become a math professor. You could be a business major, go into finance. And also the math majors are excellent for people who want to go into engineering. And there's all these new fields, I mean, computer science, and all these new fields like computational biology, that you work in the medical field, analyzing data, especially in cancer research. It's quite fascinating. So there's a lot of great majors that you can go into with a math major. Okay, so I just wanted you to see what a school, this is Boston University, for a family with 0 to 30,000 in income, they're saying that this is the average net price. You want to look at colleges' graduation rates. You want to see their acceptance rates. And, you know, this is where you need to do your research to find out if schools are right for you. And a lot of schools now, you can take virtual tours. If they're visiting your high school, you should meet with the admission rep, get their card in case you want to ask any questions. So make sure you're doing your research. And through Naviance, if you have Naviance at your school, you can see the number of students, how many applied, and how many got accepted. So in 2022, this is actually from Brooklyn Tech, 491 applied and 59 got accepted. So this is, last year, they went down to a 12% acceptance rate for Brooklyn Tech kids. So again, you can, if you don't have Naviance, you can ask your guidance counselor, what have been in general, what have been the acceptance rates for Boston University from our school? I'll give the translators a second. We have a few more questions. So, yes, I'm going to talk about that. Someone mentioned that I should talk about demonstrated interest. In some schools, demonstrated interest is going to be extremely important. At other schools, Williams did a virtual evening at Brooklyn Tech. I think it was last week. She said, we don't look at demonstrated interest. But if you're interested in a school, let them know, because for most schools, demonstrated interest is going to be very important. Does having little volunteer hours and having little hobbies affect how colleges look at us? No, I mean, I think that if you've volunteered and you've done some things, it depends. Did you not have many volunteer hours because you maybe had family obligations? Maybe you took care of a little brother or sister. Maybe you had a grandmother or grandfather that your family needed you to have some responsibilities to help them out. It depends. Usually, most students have interests. Maybe you like to read a lot. Maybe you like to play sports. Maybe you like to make videos. So I have a feeling that the person who asked this question, you may have more interests than you think. Maybe you watch podcasts, or maybe you're so into whatever the subject area is that you're interested in majoring in. Maybe you're doing research on that. I bet you have more interest than you think you do. So think about that. For the link for the guide regarding Yale, what I'll do is if you don't mind, afterwards, I'll look for it so I don't take time away from the presentation, and I will send it. Oh dear. So the questions that you're asking me, what colleges are best for acting or for this, what you need to do is say on the CUNY website and the SUNY website, you can put in what you're interested in terms of majors, and it will tell you at those schools. I mean, I know from the top of my head that acting at SUNY Purchase, that's the school you go to for acting or visual arts or dance. And, I know Boston University has a great theater department. NYU has a great theater department. Syracuse has great acting, but I can't tell you every school in the United States off the top of my head that has great acting programs. This is something that you can do further research. And paleontologist, I don't know if you're a guy or a girl, but I know that there's an all-girl school called Bryn Mawr that I believe has a great paleontology program. But again, this is your time to do your research. National Honor, someone asked, my son is in National Honor Society in private school. Is that a good advantage? Yes. On the Common App, they are going to ask you, could you give us any information about yourself, about honors classes, AP classes? honor society recognitions that you've received, you will be putting this on the Common App. So they will know that your son is in the National Honor Society. And the National Honor Society is always wonderful to be in. How do you show a college your interest? If they're visiting your high school, you can go see them. You can take a virtual tour. They actually have means now that they can see who has clicked onto their website. So every time you go into the website, you get another click next to your name. I would take virtual tours. If you can visit, I would visit the school, especially the ones in New York City. If you're applying to Fordham, Columbia, not necessarily the city schools, but any private school in New York City, I mean, you should go visit it. I once had a student who was denied from Fordham, and I actually called up and said, I don't understand. This is crazy. Why didn't you take this student? And do you know that they told me she never looked on our website. She never visited, and we're in New York City and she lives in New York City. We figured she just put this on her list as a safety. And, you know, if she's not that interested to at least visit us, then, you know, we have other kids who were very, very interested with the same average. So, okay. So that's how you do it. And if you go to a college fair when you're a junior, or if there's any college fairs around now, you meet with the people, you let them know that you attended the fair. And again, that's showing interest. For the virtual evenings that we're doing at Brooklyn Tech now, the students sign up for them. And at the end of the evening, I send a list of all the names of the students who signed up for it to the representatives. This student asked, I attend Brooklyn Tech. I major in bioscience. For college, I don't think I will continue it. How do we find a college that best fits me? So, for someone like you have Naviance. You could go on to Naviance, and there are career interest tests in there. You might want to speak to your guidance counselor or look around Naviance and take one of those career interest tests to find out what your strengths are. And I always tell, students, ask your guidance counselor for something called a permanent record. I don't know if they have it in the private schools, but a permanent record lists your grades by subject area. So if you look at your transcript and you have a GPA of 95 in social studies, and, an 85 in science and an 88 in math and a 95 in English, you might think, I'm more a humanities person. Maybe I'm somebody who should be thinking about law school. So look at the permanent record, and that might give you an idea of your strengths. When is the best time to start looking for colleges and starting your resume? I would say right at the beginning of spring term and junior year. You can start to look, maybe a little bit at the beginning of your junior year, but your freshman and sophomore year, it's good to know about college, but it's also good to know this is my time to get acclimated to my high school, to join clubs, to find out what I'm interested in, and to work on my academics. Okay, so I'm thinking that this is a good time to, for some reason, I don't see my intermission. So I think this might be a good time that we take a break and the sponsors introduce themselves to you, and then we will go back to me. Thank you so much. And I hope that you've learned some interesting facts so far.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Paula, for giving us a wealth of information. So I'd like to extend our appreciation to all our sponsors who made this webinar possible. So first, I'd like to introduce Tai-San Duhua Association of America. Raymond, are you available to say a few words?
Yeah. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Wow, excellent. Thank you, Paula McKinnon. Well, you get out a lot of information to, yeah. Okay, anyway, so I just say a few words. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Raymond Wang. Yeah, the Tai-San Tufa Association, President of the Tai-San Tufa Association. Yeah. 我係美國督服學總會呢個係第2年啦，咁我哋都係係即係會繼續係支持呢個咁有意義嘅啦，喂，我哋個 Tufa Association 咧，我哋已經成1000個 member 我每年咧，即係我介紹下我哋個 association 啦，我哋7年前咧都成立一個教育基金會啦，每年嘅春宴咧都係一直係我哋頒發獎學金嗰 SAT 嘅得獎學生，咁咧仲有呢次係好多謝咧各位家長、同學、朋友參加今日嘅大學錄取規劃嘅研討會，我哋呢度特別係多謝主講嘉賓啦 ，Paula McKinnon 同埋個主辦方 UA3、A+、LAANY 同埋美國沖撈同鄉總會嘅，希望通過呢個研討會咧，由專業人士提供個重要個資訊同埋建議，相信咧呢個問答環節中咧，學生家長能得到佢哋嘅個性化嘅建議啦。最後我哋個同鄉會簡稱係 DJA 將會繼續支持嗰個咁有意義嘅 Zoom webinar。Good luck, everyone, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. And also, our another sponsor is Changlu USA Headquarter Inc. Raymond, I know that you can also speak on their behalf.
Well, Nixon, he can't join it because he's out of the state. That's why. Yeah, just say hello. He will continue to support. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next sponsor is Council of People's Organization, COPO. Thank you. Our next co-sponsor is CAS Prep. Thank you, Sam, for sponsoring us, as well as our next sponsor is Place NYC. So that is, thank you so much for them to supporting our webinar. Okay. Let me turn it back to Paula. Paula, are you able to join us back now?
Yes, thank you so much. I needed a little bit of water. So when you're comparing schools, this is taken from Brooklyn Tech actually a few years ago. If your school has Naviance, you can compare the different schools of what averages they accepted at your school and what SATs. So in other words, it is good to know what they're accepting from your school, what sort of numbers. And again, if you're at a private school, your counselor, usually private schools are smaller. Brooklyn Tech, we used to have 1,500 seniors, so we rely on this. But at smaller private schools, the counselors will, who deal with the college process, will have an idea of what sort of numbers are actually at your school. So interestingly enough, why I brought this up is University of Michigan at Brooklyn Tech several years ago was looking for a 96.84. Of course, they take below, they take above. And University of Wisconsin was looking, it's a little bit less competitive, but two great schools. And if you're willing to look outside of the box, a student at Brooklyn Tech, look at all the kids who applied, all those, that color are all the kids applying at University of Michigan. You know, fewer kids are applying at Wisconsin, almost the same average. Another great school, you are going to have a better chance of getting into Wisconsin. So what I did for you, and you'll get this later, is you can look at private schools. If you don't have Naviance and your guidance counselor is a little bit, if you're at a private school, they don't quite know. You can look up the admission criterias for the different classes on your own. And most of the schools will provide a profile of their freshman class. You either do, when you go into the school's website, freshman profile 2027, profile class of 2027. Usually you can get it up on the screen so you can see what the numbers are of the students that they have accepted. Oh, I'm sorry. I was a little bit ahead of myself. There we go. Okay. So your list should be balanced. You want safety schools, schools that are sort of in the middle, target schools, it's a good fit, and reach schools. You know, I would say the Ivy Leagues, they're pretty much reach now for a lot of people. Sometimes, you know, students would come to me with 98 averages and not get into an Ivy League school. And you must remember, it is never personal. The schools themselves have what they call institutional needs. So that means that the schools, you know, one year they may have just built a new science center and they're looking for science majors. I remember several years ago, Brown University was sort of known as the kind of liberal arts Ivy League school. And they started promoting their engineering school, and we got a lot of Brooklyn Tech kids into their engineering school. And I saw the admissions woman about 4 years after that. And I said, is one of your institutional needs still the engineering major? She said, oh, no, we have more than enough engineers now. So just remember, it is nothing personal. But you want your list to be realistic. You want to have the safeties, the fits, and the reach schools. You want them to be financially balanced. You students, you don't want to put your parents into, you know, debt, major debt, if they can't afford it. So you want to look at the schools that are affordable versus the ones that are a bit of a stretch. So discuss this with your parents, you know, see how much they're willing to pay or take a loan for, and if they want to take a loan at all. Many people do not, especially in today's day and age, with everything being so incredibly expensive. My son got a master's at NYU, which it was ridiculously expensive because he was working, but he works for CUNY now, and he's getting a second master's at Baruch for free. And I feel so happy that I don't have to help him pay for this anymore. So I know it's a struggle. So we want you to thoroughly research your colleges We want you to have a manageable list. We don't want you really applying to 20 or 25 schools. And we want your list to be meaningful. So what does that mean? That means that you should be as happy to go to one of your safeties as you would to your reach schools. So I don't want you to put safeties on your list that you haven't researched and you could care less about. They're just there as safeties. I want you to research your safeties also, that you would be happy if you ended up at a safety. And many students I have had go to a safety for them and then transfer to a more competitive school. The letters of recommendation, hopefully you've already requested letters. If you have not, you should request them on Monday. And you shouldn't be asking, I know a lot during COVID, you could get a pass or a fail or a credit or a no credit. You don't want to ask those teachers. You want to ask a teacher that you actually got a grade in. I told you that you must sign off on the FERPer before the teachers can send the recommendation. And your counselor will also write a letter of recommendation. So many counselors will give you a survey or a form to fill out so that that will help them write your letter of recommendation. But you need to let your guidance counselor know by either a form or telling them verbally when your deadlines are. It is your responsibility to send the test scores. You could put them on the Common App, but every school will see them. So that is a decision that you have to make. And actually, there's no more SAT subject test. Oops, so sorry. There's no more SAT subject test, so please ignore that. We do not send high school test scores on your behalf. So you need to do that before the application deadline, and you can get a fee waiver for that. It said that some colleges will allow you to self-report. You have to check those individual policies. And if you are eligible for a free waiver, it's free. Otherwise, $12 per college. And I gave you a YouTube video for each of the SAT and the ACT scores to send. Many of these colleges were test optional. Many more have become for 2024. There is something called Fair Test. Oh, there it is right there. .org that will tell you all
They'll be back, so
of the test optional. Someone seems to be talking. I'm not sure if we can mute them or not. So, okay. And then also some updates to the college testing policies that I gave to you. The SAT subject tests are no longer administered, so you don't need those, and there's no more essay portion of the SAT. Test optional, they allow you to send the test scores if you choose to. A lot of students wonder, oh, if I don't send it, do they look at that negatively? They say they don't. Am I working in a college admissions office? No, I take them at their word. That they say they don't, and colleges do understand that some people are just not great test takers. However, if you are doing very well on your, and some of the schools will require them. So I know Georgetown does. So if you are not the best of test takers and you can take a prep course, I highly suggest it. It's always great to take a test prep course to enhance your chances of increasing those scores. Now, test blind, there are actually some schools that say they will not look at any test scores at all. Up until this year, CUNY was test blind during all of the hardest years of COVID, but they just became test optional. Okay, so again, demonstrated interest. I spoke about this before. I forgot to say this, make sure you open any emails that you're interested in. I said virtual or in person. Oh, you can do an applicant portal if you're applying. And make sure you're going to all of the visits that are coming to your school. And to recap, you need to finish building your college list and review your essay. Someone will be speaking to you, I believe. I might be wrong, but I believe from the University of Chicago about the essay. Right now, you need to start your Common App account. If you have Naviance, you have to match those two accounts. Excuse me, you need to inform your counselor if you're applying early. Then you'll need to finalize your lists. Let your guidance counselor, your college advisor know if any of your schools are, you cannot send electronically. Make sure you've requested your letters of rec, you've requested your fee waivers, and you need to get your test scores to the colleges on time. So I think what we'll do now is look at some more questions. Someone asked if I could do a resume webinar. I could do that, or I can find someone to do that for the group if the sponsors would like to add that. Maybe it could be an evening of writing the resume and talking about interviews, how to present yourself in an interview. I have actually college reps that will do that. So this is something we could, depending on what the sponsors want to do.
Paula?
Yes.
This is Stanley here.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. This is Stanley. I'm just going to add this. We are currently looking at a second one to do the college writing very soon. Then we're going to be doing one of financial aid. We will take into consideration the one for resume. Okay. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'll look into it. Okay.
Perfect.
It's just a matter of resource and timing.
Yes, and if there are any students from Brooklyn Tech on this program this evening, in December, I just signed up 2 colleges to, they did it last year too, that will talk about, how do you present yourself in an interview. Is it true that private schools offer more money when compared to public schools for need-based people? Depending on your GPA, that could absolutely be true, because usually even for need-based people at the SUNYs, at least, you usually have a small gap that you may have to. Now, with this year's new process of financial aid, that may not be true, because I think that people who have more need will be getting more money from what I've read. What are examples of private safety schools? So in New York State, maybe like not for nursing, but maybe for other majors, Wagner on Staten Island, Pace, Long Island University, if it's not for pharmacy. There's a school upstate, Siena, that would be possibly more of a safety school. Ithaca doesn't need a 98 average, you know, I believe you can get into Ithaca with, you know, in your 80s, depending on the major. There's a whole lot of them upstate that will look at you with a bit lower averages. Casanova is one, Canisius, etc. So you know, they're all around, and you can look for them for sure. They're there. Marymount Manhattan, in Manhattan, actually, I think they take kids with a bit lower average. So yeah, so I think that is all. And we're going to sort of, that's the last question, unless there were any questions that people asked in Chinese but I think they were translated.
Paula, can you jump over to the chat area? There was a
Oh,
couple.
sure.
Yeah, there was a couple of them. We kept asking them to post in the Q&A.
Oh, okay.
And then there was a couple of Chinese ones, and unfortunately, none of the panelists have access to the Q&A to be.
Okay.
So give me a second. Maybe I'm going to have Felix do a couple of the translation to the Chinese ones.
Okay.
We'll answer a few from here, and then we may open it up to anybody else if they raise their hand. Okay. So Felix, can you help with Paula? We're looking at the chats with the Chinese ones.
Yeah, sure. So someone asked, if you're interested in medicine, is it better to register early or regularly? Which university's medical major is better?
Oh, goodness. It depends what sort of route you want to go. So, for instance, when I talked about the Macaulay program, there are and CUNY, there is a program at CUNY called the Sophie Davis School of Medicine, and it's quite an intensive process, and it has a very small acceptance rate. But if you get accepted, you will go right on to medical school without having to take the test for medical school, which is called the MCATs. But for Binghamton, if you're thinking of eventually going to medical school, for Binghamton and Stony Brook, at least, I would try to apply early action, because they want you to apply early for the more competitive majors. And of course, having a pre-med, biochemistry major, you would want to apply early. But that being said, there's also a program at Brooklyn College. They only accept about 15 students a year. It's called a BA MD program. You have to understand something. You actually don't even need to be a science major to go to medical school. In order to be eligible for medical school, and I don't know them off the top of my head anymore, you need to have a core curriculum of certain courses. That includes bio, organic chemistry, calculus, maybe biochem, and then you have to take some humanities courses. So you could apply to the program if you're a strong student at Brooklyn College, the BAMD program. You could be a psychology major, but they will program you to take all the courses you need for medical school, and then you take the MCATs. And there's a lot of schools, by the way, who have these joint programs. If you are absolutely know you want to be a doctor and you're a strong student. I just met with a woman but you have to be willing to be open. This college is in Tennessee. It's called Rhodes College. You would go to Rhodes College. You would probably be a science major. And at the end of your sophomore year, if you meet the requirements, you apply for their program that you will automatically go to medical school at George Washington University without taking the MCATs. So for those of you interested in medical school, you can research these special programs. And what's great about that college in Rhodes College in Tennessee is that St. Jude's Hospital is there. So their students do a lot of internships at St. Jude's Hospital, and they have also a very well-known children's hospital where they do their internships. So when you research colleges, look at their pre-med programs and if they have joint programs. But most of medical students, you go to a college, you usually are a science major. You don't have to be, but you usually are. And just know that, you know, that you then will get pre-med advising. You will take the courses that you need to take. They will program you for them. And you will also study vigorously for the MCATs, which is the admittance to medical school. But if you're thinking of Stony or Binghamton, I would definitely apply early action. And, you know, some of the Ivy League schools will also, if you're a strong student and want to do, you know, pre-med, you can apply early action to them and to other schools. But you don't have to. You don't have to, for sure, except for Stony and Binghamton. Look, you have to look at the numbers. So at Yale, you know, you want to ask what percentage of your class are you accepting through early action? Or some schools you can ask what percentage of your class are you accepting through early decision. It's great if you're absolutely committed to the school, but know that early decision can actually be more competitive than regular. So this is something that you have to think about how you want to strategize your list. Sorry. And was there any other question in Chinese? I think I saw one more.
Someone asked about GPA again, like what grades?
Oh, GPA is grades. Right now, it's grades 9 through 11. And February 1st, just so you know, the colleges that you've applied to, they are going to ask to see your grades that you got from September until January. Now, if you apply early action, you've already heard if you've gotten in or not. So they're not going to ask for your grades. But at the end of the year, the college that you decide you're going to go to, they are going to ask for your final transcript. And that's why I said, for you seniors, please make sure you keep working, because I have had students, someone asked about Wesleyan. I had a student who got a complete full ride to Wesleyan. And he got a 65 in the second term of AP Calculus. And Wesleyan wrote him a letter and said, when you come to campus, you need to see us. We need to talk about that 65. And we need to, they can put you on academic probation before you even start. And I've never seen this happen, but I've heard that it's happened. They can renege an acceptance. And that is a very bad thing to happen. That means, now where are you going to go? So make sure that that you keep your grades up and you keep working hard. I know it's hard because this is a lot of work. The college application process is a lot of work, but you need to keep your grades up also. Okay, I think that is it.
Paula, let me just add one thing for these students and the parents.
Yes.
And that not only affects admission, it's going to affect scholarships. Because what happened now is that when you do get into a college and you don't get enough financial aid sometime, you can go back and ask for more. What they do sometimes is that they would take a look at your AP scores on certain topics and your regions, and they ask, what did you get on it? If it's not high enough, they might not increase the financial aid. So,
Absolutely. And I mean, they do understand now for this particular class, I think a lot of the regents were not even taken because, you know, they were in the midst of COVID. But certainly a lot of the New York State schools especially are interested in the regents.
so it may not affect admission, but it may impact scholarships. So
Yes.
people, your kids better think about this when the time comes.
Yes, keep up the good work, so to speak. I know that senior year, it's very tempting to, you know, start to slack off a little bit, but you really can't allow yourself to do that, and don't allow your friends to influence you ever to do that. Because you know, you want to get into the best school for you. And besides that, someday you're going to be my engineers, my doctors, my lawyers, my historians. So I want you to do a good job.
Paula,
Yes.
on behalf of all the sponsoring organization here, we'd like to thank you. But at this point, I'm going to let Chi take over because he's the executive director. Chi, please.
Perfect.
Yes, again, like to ditto what Stanley said. Thank you so much for providing us this so extensive information on college admissions. And some of the members already expressed additional information on possibly resume, interview, essays, or financial aid. So we're gonna go back to our sponsors and hopefully that they will be able to put together a package to support the needs of our students. And needed to say that we have many individuals that we'd like to thank them. Of course, first and foremost, Stanley Ng, putting all the pieces together. Then we have Ken Takeuchi, Danny Yip, Michelle Q, naturally Raymond Wong Dixon, Mojuba Ali, Hosanna Yao, Shan Choi, Felix Lin, David Tang. Thank you all for supporting this webinar. We hope to see each other again. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Oh, and yes, before I forget, yes, we're going to be scheduling a second seminar on the college writing and a third one on the financial aid. And we'll see about doing the resume part, okay? The only issue with the resume part, we may have to do it in person because a lot of these college interviews are in person. And body language counts a lot. That's why people don't realize the first 10 seconds when they meet with you and shake your hand, it counts a lot. So, and then our buddy here from A+, Lulu, happens to do interviews for one of the colleges. I'm not going to say which one, but you know, we do understand this. We do understand.
And I do want to say to everyone also, if you have, you know, excellent grades, etc., you should start applying for outside scholarships. There are scholarships for different ethnicities, for different groups. You know, they have scholarships for left-handed people. You know, there are all sorts of scholarships out there, private scholarships. And someone had asked if I got a full scholarship to a school, if I got an outside scholarship, how would that affect it? Should I still apply for outside scholarships? It depends on the college. So if a college is $80,000 and they give you $80,000, and you got a $5,000 scholarship outside, that school may say, oh, we're going to take it as part of what we gave you. But some schools may say, no, you can keep that, and that can be for your books, that can be for your transportation. So it depends on the school. But I say try to line up as much money as you can privately. Look at the scholarships that you're eligible for and ask your guidance counselor. At Brooklyn Tech, we have a scholarship office. Make sure that you are in touch with them.
I'll just add one story here. One of my daughters got into one of the colleges. I'm not gonna say which one. When she got accepted, it was time to negotiate for the financial aid. I tried to get squeeze an extra 10,000 from them. When they found out what she got on the AP calculus, it wasn't high enough, and we lost out on another 7,000 to 10,000 extra scholarship because of that AP calculus. So this is why you cannot let up in your senior years. You must keep going.
Yes.
Okay, Paula, I'll give you the last word. I'm done.
That is it. Thank you so very much. I hope you found the information helpful, and good luck in your search. And I hope to hear about all your acceptances on May 1st. Good luck, everyone. Thank you.
One more thing, can I add? Someone asked about communication and like future webinars and how they'll be communicated.
We're going to, for the people that signed up via the Google form, we will be sending out an email, and I'm going to be reaching out to all the different sponsors that we gone to. Some of them we went directly to, some of them are on here right now. So however they found out, they could be finding out again. We'll probably be going through the same chain of command. So, you know, if nothing else, just be sure you sign on to the Google form and we will find you guys. Okay?
Yes, check us out on social media and also website. Any updates that we have for you? We'd like to hear from you too.
Yes, and Chi, why don't you just give them an email at UA3 that they can contact, or even A+.
Yeah, you can find us at info@ua3now.org.
And feel free to also email A+, okay, or call them. We will get the information to you, okay? Okay, everybody, thank you very much.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.